What's up, meta nerds? This video is all about Rancors. They could be found throughout the galaxy in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. And throughout history, sentient beings put them to all kinds of different uses. But let's start with your average Rancor, and then we'll get into all the different subspecies. Their designation is that of semi-sentient, meaning that they have some behaviors more complicated than that of a regular animal, but not enough for them to earn a Rancor seat in the Senate. They're classified as reptomammals, the same as wampas and tauntauns, and it's a similar kind of classification that we use here on Earth, called synapses or mammal-like reptiles, which were dinosaurs that blurred the line between lizards and mammals. Rancors were warm-blooded beasts that were born from eggs, usually 2 at a time, and despite their looks, it was said that Rancor mothers were very protective of their young. A newborn Rancor was 3 meters or about 10 feet tall, meaning fresh out of the egg, they were taller than a full-grown Wookiee. These enormous babies would be carried around by the mother, with one riding on the back and another one hanging onto the belly. And they had plenty of room because your average Rancor grew to be up to 10 meters in height. That's about 33 feet or about 16 Yodas. Now, although this looks cute, if the babies were too weak to survive on their own, or if the mom thought that it would starve to death, this usually nurturing mama Rancor would actually eat her own young. Their arms are longer than their legs, and although they usually walked upright, they could run on all fours, and some of them had a short tail to help them balance. For offense, they had giant claws on each hand, which it would use to catch prey and shove it into its terrifying mouth. A mouth which was of course full of razor-sharp teeth. Not sure if this is better or worse, but the Rancor would often spare its victim from being ripped apart, and would just swallow creatures whole. For defense, the Rancor's skin was so thick that it was nearly blaster-proof. Though this is one of the biggest reasons that Rancors were hunted, because Rancor leather was an extremely sought-after product. They also had great night vision, though in daylight its vision was slightly worse than that of a human. And although it may seem like a horrible creature to be around, the gibbet bird didn't mind its fearsome appearance, and they formed a symbiotic relationship where the birds would pick out all the bits left in the Rancor's teeth. Now a look at their history puts us on the planet Dathomir, the home of the original Rancors. The Dathomirians noticed that these were not just giant dumb beasts, because Rancors mourned the death of family members, and they were even noticed using some form of communication. Rancor clans organized themselves into a matriarchal society, and the clan mother was observed to speak to a large group of Rancors, leading Dathomirians to believe that they were actually passing down the oral history of their clan. Despite this, everything else the Rancor did was brutish, showing little to no tactics when hunting, and just relying on their size and strength. Humans were their most hunted prey, that is until the advent of the Witches of Dathomir. These practitioners of force magic were able to tame Rancors, and use them to conquer the whole of Dathomir. Rancors realized that the witches provided a symbiotic relationship, because with the humans' better eyesight and superior tactics, the tamed Rancors grew larger and more powerful. And don't forget the fact that these witches would often hunt with weapons and provide armor to the Rancors, which made them a nearly unstoppable force that would kill any other rival Rancors that might try and take over the clan. After hundreds of years of doing this, the Dathomirian Rancors became even more domesticated, and the wild Rancor population was reduced to a small herd in the sparsely populated Great Canyon region. Now, the Rancor, of course, was not exclusive to Dathomir, and it's actually really sad that in a way, they just look like dumb monsters to the rest of the galaxy. It was often easier to catch the younger Rancors, and so they grew up away from the clan mother and their oral tradition. The Rancor trade was lucrative long before the rise of the Old Republic, and it was especially used by the Rakata, one of the species most responsible for spreading the Rancors throughout the galaxy. Revan and Darth Bane encountered Rancors on their travels, and they were a favorite amongst criminal organizations. Some Rancors were also used for gambling, pitting Rancors against Rancors or against other beasts and challengers. One such criminal with a Rancor that could have changed the fate of the galaxy was Jabba the Hutt. His tamer Malakili was a famous beast tamer that met Jabba while on tour with his Circus Horrificus, a show that displayed the galaxy's weirdest and strangest creatures. But of all the beasts, the Rancor was his best friend, and he would often sneak out to the desert to take the beast for a long run over the sand dunes. Malakili was of course devastated when Luke Skywalker killed his best friend. Now, about all those Rancor subspecies. There were smaller bred Rancors in the form of gnarled and pygmy Rancors, tyrant Rancors which were 20 meters tall, more than twice the height of an ATST, and perhaps the most impressive was the bull Rancor, most often found on Felucia, a variant with lighter skin and enormous horns, which was often seen alongside other smaller Felucia Rancors, which like the Dathomirians were able to be tamed by the locals, who often painted these beasts in bright fluorescent colors. The strangest Rancor variants were those manipulated by Sith alchemy, and these included the Jungle Rancor, which were brighter colored and had webbing between the fingers and the feet to better allow it to travel through water. The Koloi, a Rancor with lighter bones and wings, which allowed this terror to take to the skies. Emperor Palpatine put Rancors into an alchemical cocoon, which turned them into these radioactive-looking Rancors called chrysalids. The Emperor's Rancors were said to be exceptionally more powerful and violent than the originals. The disciples of Ragnos also created their own type of mutant Rancor, which would breathe green toxic gas from tanks located on its back. And the final variant is a mutant Rancor created by the Imperial Bioweapons Project, which was basically an undead zombie Rancor. Well, that's it for the Rancor species, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. This may sound wild, but there was a Rancor named Tosh, who was the herd mother of a Rancor family of the Singing Mountain Clan, a group of those witches on Dathomir, and according to their accounts, Tosh was able to read and write, and Tosh tried to teach these skills to other highly intelligent Rancors. It's said that the lightsaber combat style Naiman was actually based off of the Rancor. This fighting style is well-rounded, perhaps a reference to the Rancor having great offensive and defensive capabilities. The reason why the Galactic Empire was experimenting with Rancors so much is because that they had seen firsthand just how powerful they were when fully grown Rancors on Dathomir were able to single-handedly take out an entire AT-ST unit. While working on the concept of the Rancor for Return of the Jedi, the creators described this monster as a cross between a bear and a potato. And originally, it was intended to be played by an actor, but they weren't satisfied with the look on camera. The Rancor was then supersized and turned into a rod-operated puppet. To help create the illusion that it was a gigantic creature, they filmed it with a high-speed camera and then slowed down the footage to make it look like a lumbering beast. And the sound designer for the Rancor said that he made all of its sounds by manipulating the howls of a dachshund. Well, that's it for the Rancor. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and be sure to leave a comment down below if I missed any cool facts, or if you have a suggestion for future videos. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at MetaNerdsLore, so you can see us build Star Wars props and cosplays, along with some other cool Star Wars stuff. If you want to help support this channel, check out the description below for our Amazon store and our Patreon. And be sure to subscribe, because we're making videos like this every single day. But more important than all that, remember, don't ever judge a monster by his appearances, and the Force will be with you. Always.